So the purpose of this podcast, video, however you want to view it, is to discuss things as not bipartisan, but as neutrally as possible. I don't particularly care what side is where or who's in charge of what. What I do care about is how it affects us, how it affects my family, how it affects regular people that are associated with anything. And I think too much we have started to look at things from just the straight position of, is it a left leaning or is it a right leaning type thing? And that's not a way for us to really have an idea of what is the best path forward for people in general. By default, looking at it from either one direction or another specifically sets it up as biased. Nothing is inherently right or wrong on a strictly Republican or Democrat scale, no matter if it's far right, whether it's far left, whether it's neutral, it doesn't matter. What matters is what is best for us as a country. Let's take, for example, the crackdown of crime in Washington, D.C. That specific scenario is good. I can't even state the number of times that I have resisted going into a town or a city or a downtown area, especially late in the evening. Second-guessed my kids going there, second-guessed so many functions of it because of crimes or things that have happened. There was a point in time that my wife worked in a downtown area and literally turned to a window to see someone pleasuring themselves right at the window. She was absolutely insane with fear, calling me, calling the police. And you have to understand that most people would react that way. Those type of things are not normal. When there's people out on the internet, streamers, YouTubers, anyone saying that, people should be put into mental institutions or they should be taken somewhere, that is not a right or left view. That is exactly what should happen. Think about this. If you had your kid working their first job, or your daughter or a significant other, would you want a 50% chance, a 30% chance, a 0% chance of someone doing something like that while they're trying to work? I don't think you would. And I don't think most people would. And the reason that we let it keep going on is for fairness to those people. Let me put it another way. Is it fair for those people to continue living lives where that's something they feel like they have to do or they can do? I mean, go on TikTok for a little while and see just the number of videos of people acting with just utmost insanity. The literal craziness that has blossomed into what exists in this world today and what's allowed to exist is absolutely insanity in itself. I would argue that some of these people could actually end up with a better life being somewhere that could help them and treat them or anything to make them understand that, acting properly in society benefits all of us. If you're someone then who jumps on and yells, we shouldn't be able to tell people what to do or control what happens. And for the most part, that's correct. But it's no different than when you have, your significant other, right? You wouldn't tell them what to do. You wouldn't force them to behave in a certain way, and you shouldn't. But what if they were endangering themselves? What if they put themselves in a situation where they could get hurt? Would you do something then? Would you ignore it? Would you just say they deserve to continue to behave however they want? I tend to think you wouldn't. I think you would do something to protect them or whoever they're involved with that could hurt them. These people are people, and they're doing things that put them in a situation that could very much harm their behavior, um, harm society, harm you going out to dinner. How many news reports have you listened to or podcasts you've seen stories from where people have died doing something as simple as filling up their gas tank or going out to breakfast or attending a movie because someone with some sort of mental instability steps out and does something that is beyond what a normal person would do. Sure, they might have mental issues, but the answer is not to just leave them out there to do whatever they want. That's not the answer, because you're putting people at risk that are acting on their own in a way that is normal. Let's look at another thing along the same lines where people's behavior, I believe, should be monitored, like a crime, or, we should be able to have law enforcement have less restrictions on how things are handled. And that is this thing where there is a large group. It seems to be mostly women. Now, could I be wrong or uninferred? I mean, I can only go off the same type of media that you all see. I see media of women acting absolutely insane when accosted by police for one reason or another. They could be in a restaurant yelling at a server. They could be in a grocery store yelling at a worker, or in a Walmart, doing stuff to someone else as opposed to minding their own business. And when they're confronted, there is this higher than thou, almighty, whatever they're doing in their life, they seem to think that they have some sort of semblance of privilege, priority. And it doesn't matter. This is not a racial thing. This is not a income thing. This is a person thing. Whether you're rich or poor or black or Asian or white or whatever, you shouldn't just be able to go in and just treat people however you want. And then when somebody says something, pull out your phone and start videotaping them and acting crazy. Now, I do believe some of these people do this strictly because they want to repost it on TikTok or some other social media and become TikTok famous or get a viral clip. Do some research. Look and see how much money that might earn you for that one time it actually takes off. What percentage of clips hit a view count that even make a difference? Yeah, a bunch of people saw you, a bunch of people interact and videotape, and there's people that become viral. But I mean, there is just as much chance out there as winning the lottery. There's just as much chance of you starting a Twitch channel, going out there and becoming, universally watched. I mean, even some of the top streamers on Twitch, for example, are 40,000 is a big number, right? Or, having 1 million followers, again, a big deal. There's a streamer on a monitor next to me right now showing 25,000 viewers. That's not a lot of people. Not when you look at the grand scheme of who could be tuning in, the world, the country. It's a niche, and it's not going to happen for everybody. So you going out there and overreacting on purpose is crazy, even if you aren't, even if you're just doing it for notoriety. It is a level of insanity, of something that just does not allow you to function like a normal person minding your own business, going out and trying to live life. And for the rest of them, that this just happens no matter what, that it's not them looking for views. It's just them out there thinking that they're better than everyone else. The term Karen is used because it does seem to be mostly women. Are there male Karens? Sure. There's an exception to every single rule. The problem a lot of times is that we hyper focus on the fact that there are, certain examples. Oh, well, this happened one time. So you need to state that. Why? If something happens 99% of the time, why do I need to state the 1% of the time? It doesn't matter. You know, if you win an election, you won an election. It doesn't matter. You know, if the number is higher, then the majority of people feel a certain way. And the majority of people are not out there doing this type of stuff, but the majority of them seem to be women. I don't know if they're bored. I don't know if it is about being famous. I do know that it makes y'all look crazy. Absolutely insane. And again, this is where I think being able to just pick somebody up and put them away for being crazy. It doesn't matter in the long run to most of us. We will write a note on a video or respond to something and say, oh, this is horrible, this is terrible. And then we will forget about it a week later. And then that same person may go out there and affect somebody else's life in a negative way. I don't like that. I don't like seeing other people's lives disrupted on a day-to-day basis from other people who should also be minding their own business. So we should just pick them up off the street and put them in a mental asylum. I know it sounds way out there, but aren't the things that we see happening way out there? Some of those things that we see are crazy. You know, another right and left thing, you know, removing people that are illegal from the country. This is not specifically a right or left issue. It is legal or illegal. There's no gray area in between these two functions, but yet we will scream that it is. We will scream and yell that this is a right or a left issue. It's not. It is legal or illegal. And if it's illegal, then steps should be taken to fix that. As you would expect if it's something happened to you. If you or your child had something happen to you that was illegal, you would want something to happen, a consequence. And this brings me back to where all of this is leading to. Right, left, gray, neutral, whatever party, there aren't enough consequences at all. And that goes from the bottom to the top. People have started to learn that they can do whatever they want, and a lot of times it has a minimal response. Think about it. Whether it's the Karens out there going off on someone because they feel entitled to, whether it's people moving into your country, into your city, taking a job because other people have made them feel entitled to, whether it is someone from a different sexual orientation or they believe themselves from a different identity, saying that you have to identify them a certain way because they feel entitled to. There are no consequences, or there haven't been for a long time. And what's happening is that this administration, even if it's Republican, I would say the same thing if it was Democrat, they are doing something to put in consequences. Now, is everything they're doing 100% correct? No. Is everything that you did as a parent or as a boyfriend or as a spouse, was that correct? Is every decision you made correct? No. People are doing what they think is best and doing the best they can. What they should be focusing on is looking back at their decisions and say, hey, how did this work out? How was this? And then having, you know, the self-awareness to go back in and try to do better. If they're not doing that, then we vote different people in. That's the way the country works. That's what we should be doing. That is our role in government. Our role is to put people that we think in place that will do things the right way. And right now, the fact that consequences are being put into this situation, it looks great. It feels great. If you're able to go downtown without fear until 2 o'clock in the morning and just wander around, that's a good thing. I don't know where we got to a point where we should think that the fear is the normal thing. The normal thing is just being able to do it in the first place. That is where consequences are going to step in, and they're going to help us make great change to society. If you get a ticket, you need to pay it. If you're at fault, you're at fault. I know we'd all just like to get out of fault, but I mean, that is the thing. I like to think of this going back generations to the point where everybody got a trophy. I know that happened a lot in my younger years, and this thing of not letting anyone feel bad is insane. Do you know how much we learn from negative experiences? Doing something wrong, making a mistake, making an error are the best teaching tools in all of existence. Better than any teacher, better than any guide, than any AI, ChatGPT, whatever. It's the mistake that can teach us better than anything else. Recognizing that and then turning around and doing better. Our country for the last 10 years, it feels, maybe more, maybe less, has not been doing that. Everybody's been running around in fear. Now, consequences. You're illegal, you get deported. You don't want to leave, you get arrested. You act like a crazy person, you go into a mental asylum. You go on the streets and spend your entire day injecting drugs in you, you go to jail, or you go to some rehab center, or whatever ends up being worked out. Consequences. As a parent, if your children go out and do things, you are liable for them until a certain age. Consequences. You don't want those consequences? Parent better. I'm not saying y'all need to be perfect. No one is going to be perfect at parenting. I know for sure I wasn't. But you can do better. You can look at the mistakes you made and do better instead of this interior pride of, oh, this or that, or I couldn't have done this wrong, or I couldn't have done that wrong. It's an epidemic that has spread everywhere. Go online, watch a streamer, watch a YouTuber, watch something, and see how many times they make excuses for actions for themselves or for other people. Now, there's some good ones out there that just, most of the time will just say, listen, this is wrong. Even if it's about them. But I mean, that's few and far between. That is not the normal thing. It should be. It's hard. I know. We all hate admitting that we're wrong. Who doesn't? But then that's an acceptance in itself, just admitting that it's difficult to say you're wrong. And that can be rewarding in itself when you do it. You want a reward out of it? Do the right thing and then feel good that you did the right thing. There, you've got some positive energy back. Consequences. We need more. And if this administration is doing that for us, great. Let's help them do more. And if they move off the path, then elect in someone else. Do not blindly follow your team. This whole aspect of loyalty will be the destruction of society. Vote for the people that are going to make your life better, no matter what color, animal, logo, whatever is attached to it. It's about what they believe they can do. Do they agree with the same things you agree with? Because if you do it the other way, nobody's ever going to make a conscious choice. And that's where you look at the current administration and you see everybody just kind of agreeing. Now, some of these decisions are great and they're right. But what happens when everyone agrees? Well, that's when mistakes get made because there's no checks and balance. I love having people in my life that can be like, hey, maybe not the best choice, because then I can make a different one. I can learn. Does it feel good to feel that? Does it feel good to be told that? No. And these people are not going to react well to consequences. It's not going to happen. They're going to be angry. They're going to be frustrated. They could be violent, but those have consequences in themselves. Tell me that you're not tired of everything being labeled one way or another. This is black or white. This is right or wrong. This is Republican or Democrat. Listen, all the biggest news stories that are going on right now, they are not party line issues. If you improperly treat a child a certain way, it's wrong. If you cause damage to property, it's wrong. If you enter a country illegally, it's wrong. It doesn't matter when you did it. It doesn't matter if it was 10 years ago. It's wrong. Every day, we all get held accountable for things we do wrong at our jobs, on the road, in our taxes. We make a mistake, we have to do something to rectify that. So why shouldn't everyone else? Why should we make exceptions? If you're going out there and spending all your food stamps on junk food, there should be a consequence. You should immediately lose food stamps forever. I know people don't want to hear that, but you're trying to take care of your family. And if you're trying to take care of your family, give them food that will keep them out of the doctors. I don't want to go off on an entire side mission entirely, but I will say this on this particular thing, and maybe we'll talk about this in a future episode. There's a chain reaction to decisions like that. You go out and buy just junk food and tons of, carbs and other crap for your kids with food stamps. There's going to be people that end up unhealthy. And then those unhealthy, and a large majority of these people, of course, obviously are having income issues. Now they're going to end up at the doctor more. Well, who's going to foot the bill for that? Well, a lot of times it's going to be Medicaid. There is a trickle-down effect to all of this that all dump into the same pot and keep pulling from the same pot. Well, where does the money come from that goes in this pot that keeps getting pulled from? Hospitals and doctors, emergency rooms, whatever, they can't refuse care to somebody who needs it, whether they're illegal, whether they're poor, whether whatever. And the thought process behind that makes a lot of sense. Except, who's paying for it? Nothing in this world is free. Nothing happens for free. Even if you win a prize or get a present, someone paid for it somewhere along the way. Came out of the company's pockets or someone else's pockets or whatever. The consequence of doing something could be pain. The consequence of anything. How you treat your wife. How you function in society. I'm going to throw something out there, probably controversial. I don't even know if it's legal. But I believe that video evidence should be criminally liable. If there's a video that comes out of you doing something against social norms, something crazy, something you should not be doing, no matter how old you are, someone should pay a consequence for that. I'm not saying what the consequence is. That's for people in roles and jobs that are far beyond me. But there should be a consequence to that. Because otherwise, it's just going to continue. Other people online watch that video and they're like, "Oh, that looks great. I want to be popular. I'm going to do that." No consequence. More no consequence. We don't need to label it as communist or Nazi or whatever. We don't need to look at ads or things and label everything a certain way. Y'all thinking too hard. You're all thinking too hard and too deep on these things. Sometimes it's just what it looks like. There isn't always some 5-layer thing to peel apart to get to the center of. Sometimes someone just deserves consequences. Maybe that could save their life. Maybe the consequence that happened could change a behavior that might happen 10 years from now and save their life. So I put this to you in the comment section. What is something right now that you see every day? Could be something I said, could be something you think of on your own that should have a consequence that doesn't right now. Something that you believe could make things better. And it could be a consequence that exists, but you know for a fact isn't enforced. Let's come together and generate enough so we can create a top 10 list of things that should be addressed. Either they aren't right now or never were, or they're not actively being pushed because excuses. Oh, we don't have enough resources. We all can't do it. Then don't have the rule. If you can't enforce the rule, don't have it. It's going to piss people off. Enforce your rules or don't have them. Let's make a list. You can argue about it. You can go back and forth. It's fine. Remember, this is not about affiliation. It is not about race. It's not about anything. This is about being human, consequences of not behaving in a way that you would want other people to behave at. That's not a religious concept. That is a just human concept. I'd like to have discussions, long-form thought processes on what happens every day, on the things we see happening. There are so many stories that we can dive into and then have real discussions on change. Today was about consequences. Tomorrow could be on education. The next day could be on popular entertainment. Maybe your favorite streamer is fighting with another favorite streamer. All of it has a basis in something. Nothing is specific to an age group or a demographic. It could be about a video game or a TV show. Like, we need to have more dialogue with each other on how we fix things, not how angry we are about them or how we're angry that they're being looked at or they're being addressed. Like, everybody's angry about everything, but nobody's talking to fix it. They just do it my way or else. Well, I know that doesn't work at home. Why would that work in society? Either way, thank you for tuning in for this first episode. I hope we have many more to come. And I hope that maybe this made you think about something differently than before you started listening. And I hope all of us can get better because we think about these things. Everyone have a great day and a great end to your weekend. Thank you.